Well, it came to me through producer Alan Greisman, and it is it started out as a college curriculum, a college course by a professor named Armin Nikolai at Harvard, and he was doing a course that looked at atheism through the eyes of Freud, and eventually he wanted the counterpoint with it, so he brought in C.S. Lewis as the counterpoint. And then that course actually, it just sort of came to life and went on for about 35 years, at which point Mark St. Germain wrote the play based off all of that. And then it came to me, and we started to adapt it and work together on the project. But what attracted me to it was, I think it must have been like 6, 7 years ago, and at that time I felt like everything was so polarized already in our country and in different aspects around the world as well. But that was 6 or 7 years ago, and I felt like those themes were so apparent that this idea of sorry, can y'all hear me? No. Well, I felt, I guess, even about 6 or 7 years ago, but now today it feels like it's on steroids, and it felt so timely to me. So that's what drew me to it, was the underlying themes and the idea that these two great minds, even if it was somewhat fictional, that they would choose to come together and have a debate and talk about something difficult but with respect.
And Rick, how did you become involved, and what was the appeal for you?
Well, I worked and known with Alan Greisman for many years, and he called me 6 years ago, I guess, literally 6 years ago, and said, I have a wonderful script with a great young director, I'd like you to be part of it. And I was in a different stage of my career, having left what I had been doing. I was an agent for many years. And I decided I was only going to work with people who I cared about and respected, and with material that meant something to me. And I read it and said, absolutely, I have to do this. It's important, it's smart, it's provocative. I just couldn't put it down. And I knew it was going to be hard. I'm not sure I knew it was going to be this hard. I knew it was going to be hard to put together, but it was the chance to be involved with material like this that won me.
Yeah, well, a lot of people talk about how it's so difficult now to produce and even get distributed these kinds of adult dramas. I mean, is that overstated, or is it was even harder than people say?
If anything, it's understated. This was, these days are so different that there just seems to be big and small with nothing in between, and nothing coming off of gut reactions, comes off algorithms and decisions by committee. So a movie like this was going against the grain, most definitely. But I think we had to cut it off, but you can see that we had many executive producers, because most of them put money into the production. And people would say to me, they say, well, who financed your movie? I said, do you have about 10 minutes, 15 minutes? And I would start listing them. That was the nature of the beast, because that's how it is with, if I may, smart, provocative, against the grain, independent movies. That's how it is these days. That's why it takes years and years to do it.
So I'm assuming then that you had fairly modest resources for this movie, but it looks fantastic. I mean, it doesn't seem to be straining against its resources. So what are the challenges of doing a period piece, on a budget and schedule?
It's not easy. It was we had amazing heads of department. I mean, I think that was number one. Ben Smithard, who shot the film, was incredible. I mean, he won't even tell people we did it in 30 days because he feels like they would then laugh and say it can't work. We had Luciano Righi, who I worked with before, and we worked with Tony. This 83-year-old production designer had more energy than any of us. We had Emer Neem Waldonic, who's just a fabulous Irish costume designer. And then when you have somebody like Anthony Hopkins, who's at the top of the food chain on this, and he sets the tone, it brings a level of professionalism to the set. It was unbelievable. We had the most quiet, respectful set you could possibly imagine, and I don't think we could have done it otherwise. But he allows you to everybody brings their A game with that. So while we only had 30 days and we had very limited resources, and we shot a World War I scene in a day and a half, that was pretty ambitious. But we did it because it was something everybody was really passionate about trying to tell this story. So that helped too.
Well, tell me a little bit about the casting process. Obviously, you've got one of the 6 or 7 greatest living actors in this movie. How did you get in? What was that courtship process like? Did he say yes right away? Was it a little bit of a back and forth?
No, he didn't. He said no right away. And Rick was a big part of making that a possibility. So they had a long relationship.
I represented Anthony Hopkins for 13 or 14 years as an agent, and then as a manager for a couple of years, and he and I remained very close. He's a wonderful guy, very unusual, smart, caring, terrific guy. And at one point, I had shown him an early version of the script, but he was preoccupied doing another movie. I believe it was The Father. And frankly, the script wasn't as good as what you saw just now. He ended up just not being able to commit or to focus. It was in the middle of the movie. We moved on. We actually had packaged this movie with 2 other actors. Might as well. With Christopher Plummer and Jason Clarke were the 2 actors. But Christopher Plummer sadly passed away during the process of financing this, so he shelved the movie. We were very saddened and disappointed. And then we somehow looked at each other and said, let's try again. I said, let me give it to Tony again. Let's just try it, wipe the slate, do it again. And he said yes in 24 hours with the new script. He read it, called me the next day and said, I'll do it. That was the casting process.
It was strange 24 hours. I was in Belgium doing a location scout on another movie, and that day I found out that TV season was going, so my actress was not going to be available. And within 20 minutes, I had a phone call. The Hopkins wanted to do this, and I just, oh my gosh.
Well, so Rick was saying that the script kind of was evolving. And what was the evolution of the script, and what was your collaboration with the playwright like in terms of turning what he had started with into what we saw here?
Well, it was a long collaboration because, as I said, it was over about 6 years. So it was helpful because we were able to put it down at times. Not that we wanted to put it down, but just life happens, and it's difficult to make a film like this, so you're forced to put it down. But you come back to it and have a better view of it. We worked together for a couple of years where I was working as the director, helping develop while he was writing, and then at a certain point I sort of took over as the writer-director. But always the challenge with it was trying to balance the 2 stories, one being the psychological conversation drama that's taking place, and then trying to find a way to allow the I guess you'd say flashbacks or fantasy sequences to shine a light on the inner life of these 2 people, and bring a human element to it that was beyond just the conversation. But it's a balancing act for sure, and we've been at it for a while with the edits and finally working it all through the edits as well, beyond what you would think. But it's that was the challenge with it.
To Matt's credit, the movie had to avoid the pitfall of being very static and being my dinner with Andre as an analogy, neither positive or negative, simply as an analogy, where you have 2 brilliant people talking at each other. There had to be a movie dynamism to it, a movement and a feeling you could think that it was based on a play. It's public knowledge, it's on the credits, but it has to be a movie. And Matt was able to translate that and put that on the screen so you are watching a movie, not simply 2 people staring at each other and talking. There's constant movement and the flashbacks and the backstories. I thought it was come back and did a masterpiece. So.